Hey everybody, and welcome to my top 10 games of 2023, the preliminary list. Of course, there are so many games from 2023 that I have yet to physically play, and therefore I normally release a list like this where, as it stands, I'll release my top 10, but kind of halfway through next year, once I've caught up with a lot of the games that I have been meaning to play, then I will release a separate video. But despite that, I still have 10 fantastic games here to talk about that were released in 2023. Now, before I get started on these games, I want to give a shout out to the show's sponsor, KIENDA.co.uk, who are my go-to online retailer. And if you use the link in the show notes or the QR code, then you can get 5% off your first order. At number 10, I have Royal Realms, which is a complete hidden gem. Now, this is a small box card game, auction and bidding style game, as you are trying to acquire these gem cards by paying them through an auction with these other cards in your hand. And what you're essentially trying to do is that you are trying to create this grid of consecutive numbers as well as different, or sort of the same types of numbers but in the different suits. And you're trying to basically organise these cards that you've acquired in the best and most efficient way possible to get as many points as you can. Now, it's very simple stuff on the face of it, but there are quite a few little twists in this game that make it quite distinct. Number one is that at certain points in the game, you can stash some money cards away, and whoever stashed the most away will end up acquiring these wild cards, which are great because you can fit them in to amplify your scoring, as well as some other things as well, such as being somewhat punished for not spending your money earlier in the game. It's very simple stuff. If you like games such as High Society, you'll probably like this one. A first-time designer, very small publisher, but I definitely recommend you check this one out if this is your style of game. At number 9, I have 5 Towers, another small box filler game. You're looking around 30 minutes to play this one. It has another kind of bidding mechanism, but instead of paying currency for these cards, you are essentially just bidding how many of these cards from the central display you can afford to take into your scoring area, because as the name suggests, you are scoring for 5 different towers. And these towers you are trying to build by placing decreasing card numbers on top of each other of that tower type. But of course, the order in which these cards that come out is completely random. Therefore, there are some cards you can't really afford to take because the gap between the card you've just played and the new one will be too big. Therefore, you've not got much wiggle room in between for future turns. So it's quite an interesting game in terms of pacing, knowing when to kind of pull the trigger and commit to a certain tower. And that kind of push and pull really comes through because the final piece of the tower, that 0 piece, doubles the score of that tower. So again, sometimes you might be willing to sacrifice quite a few cards to increase the size of your tower just so you can double the scoring. So again, lots of decisions going on here at all times. Very delicate in terms of how you place your bids, but I enjoy it a lot. So that is 5 Towers at number 9. At number 8, I have Jerusalem Anno Domini. Now, this is a game based on the Last Supper. Now, it's an area control style game as you are trying to place as many of your personal disciples as close to Jesus on the Last Supper as possible. So you're going to get points up accordingly depending on how close to the table you are. But there's lots of other things going on, such as set collection, such as a bit of resource management, a bit of take that even, trying to switch your seats with other players. It's just a really well put together Euro with a cool theme, a cool skin on it that feels completely different to anything else. And I think it works, remarkably well and very smoothly for another first-time designer, I believe. So yeah, really impressed by this one. It did well for me. And I think it's just a really nice mid-weight Euro game. At number 7, I have Nalia. Now, Nalia kind of takes or cherry picks things from a bunch of different games. So the main mechanism in this game is this kind of overlapping system where each of the cards is divided up into quarters. And with each placement, you have to at least overlap 1/4 of one of those cards. And what you're trying to do is you are trying to score according to these variable objective cards. So you start off with a very simple pass and draft system. Think of 7 Wonders After that, you go into that overlapping system, and then you'll correspond that round to the current round's objective or scoring objective, which can be things such as, how long of a river can you make? Can you get all the terrain types in a row? Can you get these animals together? That kind of thing. But it does have the Isle of Skye style scoring, also used in games like Cartographers, where each round a different combination of scoring cards is used. So you kind of can chop and change when you need to divert your strategy and zig and zag depending on the round's current scoring. Remarkably fast. You're talking about 20 minutes to play this one. Again, the synergies of the mechanisms, the drafting, the kind of tile card placement, as well as the scoring comes together so harmoniously, and it really did compile a bunch of different games together for me. Since having this one, I haven't played Isle of Skye anymore. I haven't played a lot of the overlapping games anymore, such as Agropolis or like Circle the Wagons. I think this one is kind of a one-stop shop of those mechanisms. At number 6, I have Rome in a Day. So this was released at the UK Games Expo for us here in England, and it's a game that utilises the I split you choose mechanism, which I think is a mechanism that is seldom used and under utilised. So essentially you are going to have 5 tiles that are drawn randomly, as well as 2 buildings which are placed randomly on 2 of those tiles. And you are going to be dividing them up however you see fit. You could do like a group of 3 with another group of 2, a group of 4 and a group of 1, whatever you want. And what you're trying to do is, once you've settled with your arrangement, the player next to you is going to choose which of those sets that they want to add to their scoring tableau, and they're going to get the remaining one left. So you have a bit of kind of, you're trying to weigh up the leverage of how you can weight these just right so that you're inviting enough your opponent to take the tiles that you don't really want, so you can keep the ones that you do really want. And there's also like this scoring system where if you constantly take the smaller arrangement of tiles, then you'll get a bonus gem, which will score you quite a lot of points if you manage to do that again and again, and can definitely determine the winner. Very smooth, super quick, easy scoring, just trying to get the right buildings into the right terrains, and it just works so well. And I think the scales well. It plays fast. A really nice family weighted game that you can play in around 20 minutes. So very impressed with Rome in a Day. And number 5, I have Dragon Keepers. Dragon Keepers really did come out of nowhere for me. It's a Michael Menzel design, who's kind of known for his older Euro style games and amazing artwork. This one, another card driven game, as you are trying to collect these sets of dragons. There's quite a cool system. So essentially you are drafting cards from these kind of 2 piles, but each time you draft a card, it will change the scoring category that you need to donate to score points. So, for example, if I draft a card, the backs of the cards might say you now need 1 green dragon, but you draft from this pile that will say now you need 3 green dragons. Now you need draft from this pile that will say you need 3 blue dragons, and so on. And once you've finished drafting your cards, you can cash in these cards to get a bunch of different scoring points. You can get these little amulets that will come together and formulate a ring. You can get these golden eggs, which have like a majority style mechanism going on, a bunch of different things. So I really do like that diversity here. But what I also like is that level of interaction where as soon as somebody finishes their turn, everybody else can follow suit and try to cash in those cards as well. And because of the scoring, it really does change the feel quite a lot, because if you're the first to cash in your cards, you get the smaller denomination of points. So it does have this push and pull where when you have more control, you'll score fewer points, but if you have less control by scoring on another player's turn, there's a chance you'll go up to that next scoring bracket. Check out my review of this one. I think it's quite a nuanced game, one that isn't going to appeal to everybody because it is, feather light, but I do think there's enough there to satisfy more experienced gamers as myself. So really like this one. That is Dragon Keepers at number 5. At number 4, I have Wild Til West. Now this is actually a polyomino game as you are building up this western town. But the polyominoes is not where this game ends. You do have that spatial puzzle, of course. You're trying to fill up regions to get points. The earlier you do that, the better. But what I really like about this game is the variety of those different tiles, because some of them you have like these cows that are in fields, and it has this kind of pushy your luck mechanism where you're trying to get as many as you can in a field before you wrangle them. and score points and bonuses. You are trying to use these sheriffs to kill these bandits that will spawn on the map. You are trying to get buildings that will have unique powers. So again, there's layers of gameplay here where it's all built on the foundation of a polyomino game, but again, all those different scoring categories on top of those polyominoes. I also like the drafting system here because you have a fixed bunch of tiles on these really nice kind of organizers, and you're rolling dice, and depending on what's rolled, that'll be the tiles that you can draft from this round. And as the game develops and more tiles are taken, you can start embedding into those more juicier tiles in the center. So, if you were to ask me at the beginning of the year, would a polyomino game be in my top 5? I'd say you're crazy, but this game is that good, and I really enjoy it. So that is Wild Tiled West at number 4. At number 3, I have NAR, which is another small box card game. Now, a great degree of engine building here, as you are playing these cards from your hand, these Viking cards, to do a bunch of different things. Now, I like the drafting system where when you play a card, the card you've just played, the colour is going to correspond to the next card that you pick up. So if you're familiar with a game such as Stella, it uses that system where you really do have to think about which card you're playing because it's going to determine your future turn. Now, when you play one of these Viking cards, the more you play the same type, you start to compile the benefits. So you start getting more points. You start getting climbing this track, which will start generating you points at the start of your round. You will get these bonus tokens, which will let you mitigate certain things. And what you're trying to do is you're building up this tableau of Vikings, trying to cash them in order to get these more powerful cards, which will score you other bonuses. And it's a race to get to a certain amount of points. So therefore, the urgency to get things done and to play efficiency shines through because it is an efficiency engine. You want to be as quick as you can, not waste any actions so that you get to that 40 points before your opponents do. I was blown away with this design. It is very refined, extremely chopped down to the core. There's nothing here that doesn't need to be here, but there's enough there to be to sink your teeth into. So I actually do feel this game is almost perfectly engineered in terms of the weighting. And I'm just adoring it at the moment. So that is NAR at number 3. At number 2, I have Forest Shuffle. So lots of kind of set collection style card games this year. This one is another kind of tableau builder as you are building up this large forest, starting with a tree and then tucking other cards behind them to score as many points as you can. But all the cards score in different ways, such as this card might say you get X amount of points for every insect you have, for every rabbit you have, you get this many points, and so on. So you're trying to mishmash and synergize as many cards together as you can to optimize your scoring. But I like this simple system here of drafting from either the deck or a communal row for people's discards, or actually paying for these cards with other cards in your hand. So I like that push and pull and that sacrificing of sometimes good cards to pay the cards you really want to, but the cards you pay with go into that common display ready to be picked up by the other players, which could suit their strategy. So it has that passive interaction that comes through really nicely. And that's pretty much what the game entails. Lots of satisfying scoring combos. Some cards can relate to several scoring categories, which I always like that style of thing. The scoring is a little bit cumbersome at the end, but I think the gameplay, that's what the gameplay is all about. So you need to be willing to maybe put a bit more effort into calculating the scores accurately. But because of that diverse range of scoring, it's really worth it in my opinion. So Forest Shuffle, fantastic kind of set collection card game. And finally, at number 1, and my favourite game of 2023, at least so far, is Darwin's Journey. So more of a typical chairman of the board style game, a medium heavyweight Euro by Simone Luciani. It's a worker placement game, but I think this game really does stand on its own through the fact that you can customize the abilities of your workers. So as the game progresses, you're collecting these kind of wax seals which will make all of your workers kind of bespoke really, which can tailor them to certain worker placement spots on the board. It's a very tight game as you are traversing these islands, collecting bonuses, getting endgame scoring, unlocking new worker placement spots, using this kind of grid to discover new species, climb tracks, etc. to increase multipliers. It's, Definitely a typical Euro, but I think it has enough distinctions to make it stand out, such as that customization of the workers. Now, I really do actually need to check out the expansion to this one, which I own, because I've heard it makes the game even better. It's a tight game, but if you like worker placement games, you like medium heavyweight Euros, then this is a fantastic example of that. So again, my favourite game of the year so far on this preliminary top 10 games of 2023 is Darwin's Journey. So hopefully you have enjoyed this video, and as I said, I will be releasing another one kind of halfway through next year for a definitive top 10. But I wanted to get this video out while the subject matter is somewhat hot and relevant, I suppose. But as I said, if you have enjoyed the video, please be sure to hit like and subscribe, and check out my other content too. And for everybody else, I'll see you next time on Chairman of the Board. Bye bye.